moment. There it is. And again, I know we're not going to discuss it, but wasn't that Mank movie like the 9th most important thing that Netflix did this year? Wasn't that? I just never heard much about that movie.
Guess what? I don't even know what it is. I admit it. I admit it. I admit it.
It's about a Hollywood guy or something, I think, of some sort.
This doesn't, I mean, we shouldn't even try to talk about that because we'll just sound stupid.
Well, we're used to that, though.
No, but we can't do the, I don't see any of this stuff, so I don't want to talk about it.
We can't even do that?
No. I don't see this stuff, so therefore people who talk about it, they suck and we're right for not seeing shit and not caring.
But I love that take on it. That's a hot take.
Yeah, it's a hot.
That's my career.
Hey, Britt, you're getting old take. Okay.
Well, I am getting old. There's no question about that. Right. I can't even deny that.
So you need to stay in your lane.
I don't know what my lane is though. I don't have a lane. Live on Facebook. But I'm telling you, don't sleep on Texas Tech because I think they could really. This is where it is, right here. This is where the money is, right here, pal. Right there. That's where. You can. I'm just very thankful, and I'm going to get a little emotional, that we're able to exploit 19 and 20-year-olds for profit centers for large corporations again and risk their health. That lets me know that Donald Trump did a great job setting up Joe Biden.
Yeah, because, people held a gun to their head and told them they had to do this.
Nobody said that. Well, they could have stayed home and lived in squalor. There is that possibility. They could have done that. There was a real choice there.
Yeah. All right. I guess we're as unready as we're ever unready, which is unready. So
ready as hell.
The Brad and Britt cast for this week. It's our first one. We're back after a not very long weekend, and I guess the most amazing thing about this moment is we're both here at the right time. We didn't blow it by an hour.
Yeah, somehow we made it.
Yep.
It's like right. Isn't that the bare minimum for adulthood? Is just like making it past the hour back, an hour forward thing. Isn't that like the entrance exam for being an adult?
Yeah.
That's about it.
That's it. So, let's start with my fear of the mass stupidity in this country overwhelming good sense and us slipping back into the curve, moving back up, and hospitals starting to fill up again, and the more virulent virus spreading more quickly, and people just collectively saying, I just think it's over. I'm getting on an airplane. I'm going out to a restaurant. Fuck it. I didn't get it. I don't know anybody that died.
Right.
And
game on.
And everything is back to normal. And it does not matter how many doctors. Right. It does not matter how many people say this isn't over till it's over. I really feel, and we have to do a painful sports analogy here. We all know about teams that can't close the deal. They can't hold the lead in the fourth quarter. They keep choking.
What was the Las Vegas Raiders signature win in the last half of the season? It was that last second bomb against the New York Jets on Monday night when they failed to cover like the speediest guy on the field. The Jets couldn't close. The Jets never could close, and this is what's happening. And I don't know. I know that you're a voracious.
Maybe the Falcons being caught by Tom Brady.
Yes, exactly.
The perfect example of you have like a 27-point lead, and you can't.
What could go wrong?
Right. But so back now to the pot. We are in the lead now. We've got a lot of people getting vaccinated every day. We passed the 3 million mark per day over the weekend. I mean, that's a lot. Even I, with my limited mathematics skills, can extrapolate that out to if you had, say, 300 million people in the country, and we won't say 325, just say 300 million, that would be 100 days to get everybody. And it isn't going to happen that fast, but we're there. We've got the vaccine now, and it's going to be produced in sufficient enough numbers to get everybody in the tent, except you have to add this: who wants to get into the tent of protection, of herd immunity? And you've seen it, I've seen it, we've all seen it the last few days. Which group of Americans, by race, ethnicity, political persuasion, is the most resistant to getting a vaccine? And the answer is Republicans, specifically Republican men. It's black and white, just overall, it's about the same, about 22-23% of blacks or overall. But boy, once you divide it politically, suddenly the number is over 30% of Republican men say, I'm not going to get the vaccine. And let's wind the Brad and Britt cast back about a month when the story first hit that it was revealed that Donald Trump and his wife, Petunia, got the vaccination
in secret, in the shadows.
Right. In January, as soon as it was available, and he didn't tell anybody. Right. And he was still in complete lockdown, denial, nothingness mode, except plotting to overthrow the government. That's all he was doing. And he had already checked out. He'd checked out, months ago, way even before the election, of being a passive spectator to all this bullshit. And then after the election, he was nowhere to be found. But he got the vaccine, then didn't tell anybody, and gave aid and comfort to everybody who doubted. And as we said then, I believe that is by far the most egregiously horrible thing that Donald Trump has done or did do as president, because it is clearly because he is a cult leader, and people in the cult listen to the cult leader. He gave them permission to not get the vaccine because, as far as everybody knew, he didn't get it. And he would lie or he would fudge if it was ever coming up, even tangentially. He would say, well, because I had that treatment back in September or October, they're saying I have to wait and blah, blah, and I'm going to get it. So he was lying about that. So fast forward, here we are to today. And the largest subgroup of Americans who won't get the vaccine, or say they're skeptical of it, or they don't believe it works, or they believe the risks of getting the vaccine are way worse than getting the coronavirus itself, or it's a plot, or all the reasons, they're clearly able to be traced right back to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And
you can even drill down a little bit further. It's mostly white males. I mean, it's mostly white Republican males in rural areas who are below college education. That's going to be the majority of the folks that we're talking about, right?
You know what? I don't know.
Well, I've got some numbers. I've got some numbers.
Do you have college? Do you have education breakdown?
Well, I've got a demographic breakdown of African Americans, and that's 25% of Black respondents in the NPR PBS NewsHour Marist survey said that they will not get it. So that means 75% in the survey said that they would. Yeah. So I think that breaks that down, some of that. The ones who supported Trump in 2020, 47% said they would not choose to be vaccinated. In contrast, 6% of Democratic men and 10% of Biden supporters said they would not get the shot. So you're thinking there's the affluency part of it is part of this as well?
Absolutely.
Oh.
It isn't just people with money are smart and they're going to all get the vaccine. And
No, but
poor
here's
people are stupid and they're not going to get the vaccine.
here's the issue.
I think that's a bit arrogant to think.
Here's the issue. The people who are very wealthy Republican men have been able to manipulate the ones that are not as well educated for a long time, and that goes back to Donald Trump. So they will say one thing about getting the vaccine, but then they will get it just like Donald Trump did in the shadows on January the 6th.
Yeah, that's quite another issue there.
There you go.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt that for one moment.
That's
But
how that works.
The fact that he and remember, there's another layer to this cake of shit over this, and it is that at the same time that you're reading article after article and seeing whiner after whiner who is a Trump fan, a Trump supporter, or a Republican complain that Donald Trump isn't getting credit for the vaccine itself. At the same time, he's the guy leading the "Don't Take the Vaccine" brigade.
Yeah.
Which is it? So I invented something that I'm not getting enough credit for that you shouldn't take. That you cannot come back at me and say there's any degree of logic to that. That is so fucked up. It's just not fathomable. It's just beyond anything.
There's a Brad Krantz standard that's been around for a long time. It's just too stupid. That's too stupid, right? That's even too stupid to even would be worth discussing or parsing out or trying to justify or anything.
You can't. And then you have and I don't know whether he deserves his own segment. I guess he does. Ron Anonymous Johnson of Wisconsin. I mean, he's got two stupid things working right now in the current moment, as opposed to the non-current moment. At this time, one was the racist thing. We'll get to that in a minute. But he's also saying he's not getting the vaccine. And remember, we know politicians are idiots and they're all stupid. And on the other hand, when a politician says something, we listen to it, blah, blah, and they may be a role model. But, take your choice here. But Ron Johnson says, well, he had coronavirus several months ago. So he has declared he's got immunity and doesn't need to take the vaccine, which, of course, is not true.
Correct.
So he is an unending fountain of idiocy.
Mm-hmm.
It's just unending. It just doesn't stop.
But see, that's what I'm talking about. You see an affluent Republican guy, and he's able to influence kind of the people that aren't quite as bright as he am, and they're like, "Well, yeah, he's telling the truth. I'm not going to take it either. Fuck it, because I think I had it too. I had a sniffly nose back in January." So that's the kind of shit that I'm talking about. That guy, that Ron Johnson guy, is extremely dangerous. Now, please get to the racism, because that is the main dish here. That is the entree.
All right. Let's see. There we go. And there is a one part of the statement that no one is talking about.
Yes.
And I'm just having a hell of a time.
Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson is being called racist for an interview in which the white Republican said he wasn't worried about the predominantly white supporters of President Trump leading the deadly insurrection. And this would be on the Joe Pags radio show.
Right. Here's the quote now. Even though those thousands of people that were marching to the Capitol were trying to pressure people, into voting the way they wanted to, people like me to vote the way they wanted me to vote. I knew these people love the country. They truly respect law enforcement and would never do anything to break the law. So let's stop right there. Clearly, they did do a few things to break the law to the tune of hundreds of arrests right now. They've just arrested two guys who were the suspects in killing Officer Sicknick.
They bear sprayed a police officer. They bear sprayed a guy. I don't know if Ron Johnson thinks that's okay.
Right. But they would never do anything to break the law, said Senator Johnson. And so I wasn't concerned. Now, had the tables been turned, and this could get me in trouble, Joe, he's speaking to the host. Had the tables been turned and President Trump won the election, stop. All right. So remember, that is an acknowledgement there that Biden did win the election. And
Right.
Johnson, a few months ago, played the game of, yes, Joe Biden won the election, but I'm perfectly within my rights to try to stoke people to take any kind of action that they feel makes them justified in contesting the election. But I think Joe Biden won the election. But he put that into this statement here. Had Trump won the election, and those were tens of thousands of Black Lives Matter and Antifa protesters, I might have been a little concerned. And there you go. This could get me in trouble. And then he stopped. That was the end of his statement. You've seen the clip. There it is.
It took him a while because I think people had trouble believing that he actually said it, but he's now being rebuked publicly by a lot of people over this.
Well, of course. Yes. Twitter is angry. Democrats are angry, and Republicans are probably saying, I didn't hear him say that. I didn't hear the clip. I didn't read about it. I'm sure they'll
Republicans are like, no, it's Dr. Seuss time for the Republicans.
Yeah. But what is just stunning to me is right after the 6th of January, we were, when I say we, like the planet of non-Trump people, were saying that it was curious at how measured and rational and trying to keep a cooler head the Capitol Hill police were in the face of being assaulted. And we were all saying then that, boy, if this would have been a non-white crowd, would have been Muslims. That's what the word was. If it was Muslims doing this, the outcome would have been a lot bloodier, a lot more quickly, and they would have never gotten past the front door. Okay. And I think now that we know how badly the communication was and how reticent law enforcement was and how hesitant the National Guard was and how the communication breakdown, apparently, as always, it's to please President Trump. It's all about always making sure that he isn't angry with you, whether you're the head of the national, they all did that. Had the crowd been a different ethnic mixture protesting something different, yes, the outcome would have been different. So here we go. A couple months later, for Ron Johnson to actually voice that and admit that his fear was, and by the way, he's wrong. They would have hung him from the rafters too, because you know
Easily.
what? They didn't know Senator shit from Shat, right?
No,
you saw them. They were confused about who was who. They
know the stars. They would have known the stars, but outside of that, forget it.
You wouldn't know Ron Johnson from the car dealer down the street. He just looks like the average guy.
He does. He looks like an insurance salesman or an accountant or something like that. That's what Ron Johnson looks like.
Right. And so for him to voice that level of racism as a United States senator is so far beyond the pale. And I haven't followed up and seen if there's at least, if there's usually Mitt Romney will say something.
I haven't seen it.
You'll usually get a comment out of someone like him now against idiots in the party over stupid things.
Well, I think Susan Collins is concerned, Brad. She's very concerned.
I thought she'd be disturbed. I thought she'd be I'm very disturbed.
No, I haven't seen it. It's right. They're extremely silent on this. Very silent.
Yeah. Right. Well, because you know what? They were watching all those conference championship games over the weekend, and they probably didn't get any news, Britt. So
that's probably what happened. They were very busy watching all those conference championships, which are so important.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I know we originally started when you were talking about how we're close and some people are getting a little too exuberant and wanting to open things back up. I know that you read a lot. You probably saw that piece about what a shit show it is in Florida and how Governor DeSantis has presided over, what virus? Fuck it. Walt Disney booked up for spring break, that people are partying down on South Beach like it's cool. They've had 32,000 people die in Florida. And this is where I can tie this into my first love, which is, of course, pro wrestling. There's an event coming up in Tampa called WrestleMania. It's over 2 nights. They are going for, right now, they were going for 30% stadium capacity. They were going for 50%. They were going for 70%. That stadium allegedly holds 60,000 people. I believe Vince McMahon very soon will approach Ron DeSantis and say, fuck it. We want all of it. We want 100% capacity for that Raymond James Stadium in Tampa.
If there are any limits now. I'm
it's
surprised
stunning
because if you've noticed, Britt, in the last few weeks, there, and it goes back to the CPAC conference of, what was that, 3 weekends ago?
Yeah.
There is a concerted effort to vault Ron DeSantis into the first tier of future Republican stars.
It's stunning.
Look at him. Look at him compared to, Governor Groper up in New York and Governor Moonbeam Jr. out in California.
Yeah.
And him, boy, and that guy in Texas, he's fantastic. They're trying to boost Greg Abbott.
They are.
This is what they're doing.
Yeah,
they're trying to make you deny that anything is out of sorts in those states, and that they've been able to just power through, and business is great, and it's just going to get greater. And I think it's a recipe for disaster. And what's even more unbelievable is we already have 1 year under our belts, a whole calendar year. So we know what happens during holidays where people move around too much and gather too closely together. And the video we're seeing of the last few days is fairly identical to what we saw a year ago in Florida. And what happened right after that? That's when Florida was really in bad shape. So, of course, their response was to fire the woman who was tabulating the actual numbers of deaths in nursing homes. And
that's correct.
So you know what? DeSantis was Cuomo before Cuomo was Cuomo. He already was cooking the books down there and trying to convince Floridians that everything is okay. And he held that famous press conference about 6 weeks or so after the numbers had moved down, and he was trying to shove it up everybody's ass. All you members of the press, you were all wrong. I was right. And then as soon as he did that, the numbers went back up through the roof there. And I always ask this question. It needs to be asked periodically. And it especially includes people who refuse to get the vaccine, who doubt its legitimacy. Here's another one that it was developed too fast. It wasn't tested enough.
Right.
And when you answer that question with the right answer, which is number one, it was tested enough. Number two, all the government agencies, not just in this country, but around the world, have signed off on it, and they did their own testing, and they all said it was okay. And this was really a 20-year project to develop this kind of technology. Right. And this is exactly what it was developed for, so that at the push of a button, you might be able to find the key to curing a quick-moving virus like this, instead of having to wait several years like we used to have to when all vaccines were developed the old-fashioned way, without the technology that we have, for which Donald Trump is trying to take some kind of credit. And of course, he deserves a little teeny tiny bit. But when he jumps in there and says, and he said it over and over again, if it wasn't for me, if it would have been anybody else, it would have taken 4 or 5 years. That's a lie. That's not true. Right. If any other person had been president when the coronavirus was starting to cook, first of all, they wouldn't have been out there lying about it all the times that he did. But we'll put aside all the lies and try to separate that out from Operation Warp Speed, right? With all these people in pharmaceuticals and biotech who were funded generously to be able to do the research. Yes, no other president would have thought of that, Britt. Donald Trump is the only guy
He
who
invented it.
thought of that. He's the only one. And every other president would have just thrown up their hands and said, well, you know what? Maybe 2026 at the best.
Yeah, maybe.
You just and so this attempt to rewrite history, and it's an attempt that's going to be ongoing in Florida. It's going to be ongoing in Texas, and it's just not going to stop. It's definitely not going to stop. I mean, in Texas, obviously the big project to boost Greg Abbott is to try to get everybody to forget how people probably still don't have clean water in thousands of homes, and how they're going to figure out how to pay these electricity bills, which went nuts because of the deregulated situation that they have there that no other state in the country seemed to be dumb enough to stumble into. If I said to you tomorrow, you know what, your electric bill will only be at maximum $35 a month. However, if something goes wrong, the bill could be $10,000. Would you take the deal?
Sold.
The answer is yeah. Right.
Well, and the other thing that bitches me, that really gets me about Florida and Texas, is all they do is bitch about the federal government. The federal government sucks, but because of their incompetence and killing people and all this other shit, the federal government's got to bail their asses out. The federal government is us. So all they do is bitch about this stuff, open up the economy, kill people, and then they have the feds come in and save their asses. That's what drives me nuts. But of course, on Fox News, the current crisis is the crisis at the border. What is Joe Biden going to do? That's what they're focusing on.
Well, you're not being fair to Andrew Cuomo, because it's a tough decision every hour whether to start with immigration crisis at the border, which I think you can be thankful that the Republicans are this stupid. Because is it today or tomorrow or Wednesday, the 12 of them, including Kevin McCarthy, they're going to fly down to Texas on the border. They want a photo op. Yeah. They need to inspect to see what's going on.
Right.
So that, because they think that this is going to be their ticket back to power, and the answer is that there will be an answer, and Biden's using FEMA, and they're going to have to figure out a way to balance this. There has to be some kind of balance between Nazi tactics of Donald Trump and open borders. There really is something in between there, and it's tough to find. It's been difficult for decades for presidents to get this right. And
no, I think Joe Biden created this problem. I think Joe Biden is solely responsible for this problem. It was fine until
right. It was fine. Trump had it under control because we got all of the Mexicans to stay in shitty, life-threatening conditions on the other side of the border, and we wouldn't let any of them and we'd separate families. Most of us don't want that. Most of us don't want a free flow of people into the United States. There's something in between.
I agree.
I think it's going to be found. But thank goodness 12 Republicans are going down there to help find a solution to this problem. Thank goodness we've got them ready to work on our behalf. Nice job, guys. Well done.
I think they got it. I think they got it under control. But that Florida piece, anybody wants to look it up, I think it was a New York Times piece. It is absolutely frightening. There was no real statewide discussion about kids not having in-person learning in Florida. Most of them have been in class since the fall. There's been, it's just frightening how ignorant. And as you said, Ron DeSantis is now being launched as the next Trump, right? He's the next guy.
Oh boy, high praise is the. Now there is an argument about in-school classes not being super spreader events, that we may have gone too far in closing schools for too long. You can make that argument, but in Florida, it's everything. It's not just schools, right? And
it's everything.
It is hard to believe. It's not hard to believe. Why should I ever say it's hard to believe? It's hard to believe that leading up to what is traditionally spring break, which I don't know how you have a spring break if you've just been sitting in front of your computer for, I guess you have to get away from your computer to go to a beach. You know, you and I are several decades away from that phenomenon.
Sure. Well, it's a good thing that there's nothing you can carry around in your hand that would give you the same access to the stuff you see on the computer, so that you can just get away from it all. That's a good thing for a kid.
Right. But it's hard to believe that they didn't ahead of time plan out a way to truly make whatever kind of onslaught was going to occur.
Oh, forget it.
We can't stop it. We can't stop it.
No, forget it. There's no discussion. There's no, why would there be a plan? Discussion. We want it to happen. These are jobs. This is commerce. We got to rock.
And you know it's a problem because, of course, you have a Republican governor, Republican legislature, and as always, in a lot of places like here, you have Democratic mayors of cities like Miami Beach. You see that guy on TV that guy's tearing his hair out.
Yeah,
he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, he is.
And there's nothing he can do because they're milling around. And I guess we have to have the same discussion that we had last year. Guess what? Yes, you're 22, you're healthy, and your chances of getting deathly sick and dying from the coronavirus are not that high. But you may be asymptomatic and take it home and spread it to your parents or grandparents. And can someone tell me what changed this time compared to when we said those things last year and they turned out in many cases to be true? The answer is nothing. So is this country dumb enough to be the don't we ever learn anything from our own mistakes country? Yeah. I hate even saying that. I hate saying that.
It's also like the crowd that doesn't trust science says, fuck it, science will come up with something for me. They'll figure it out. I mean, that's and we're dealing with these long haulers, which is a phrase that's been coming into existence for a few months now. These long haulers who will have effects from this, even if they don't die over the course of their entire life, that's going to cost billions upon billions upon billions of dollars over a course of possibly decades. These people are not going to be able to work in many cases. They're going to have to get disability payments and all of that stuff. That's happening.
And you're comparing that problem to the problem of not being able to go out and party your ass off in South Beach. You're comparing those two. What is wrong with you?
I'm just saying, if you guys can hang on,
decency. Yeah.
If you could just hang on for like 3 more months, y'all can have tons of sex. I believe that there's going to be an incredible amount of sex happening among single people and not single people in America this summer. Once we get to herd immunity, which is really around the corner, but you still got to wait a little bit, there's going to be some exuberance, man. It's the roaring 20s. It's going to be the post-World War II. It's going to be game on because there's going to be a lot of exuberance. If you guys can just hang on for like 90 or 100 days, you can be having so much sex and partying so hard. If we could just get you to woe back for just a moment.
Well, here's a question. We've seen what's been going on college campuses, all kinds of problems, lockdowns, go home for spring break and don't come back for 4 weeks, all those kind of terrible things that have disrupted kids' educations. How are those kids, many of them, able to then just turn off that problem and head down to Galveston or Daytona Beach as if nothing is wrong? Why do you think you had a problem back at State University that they had to do these things? I think they're in another pullback moment at Duke again.
Yeah, they are. The undergrads have been ordered to stay in. Absolutely. It's a mandatory school-wide quarantine.
They've been ordered to stay in, but what? You can fly down to Florida and nobody cares?
Well,
the mixed messaging here is so overwhelming, and everybody's looking for a little crack in the pavement to get through and resume normal life. Now, I will tell you, yesterday, Sunday, I went back to the gym for the first time. It's been a year. I wanted to see what it was like. I have an N95 mask.
Okay.
And I didn't know how uncomfortable it would be being on an elliptical for an hour and sweating. But I walked in there and had the usual number of people in there. There might have been, who knows, 50, 60 people, but it's a giant place. They're spread out. And every other machine is marked off. You can't even be next to anybody. And I felt there less danger than I do in a grocery store, in a
Mhm.
Walmart, or anywhere else, because I was a minimum of 15 feet away from everyone the whole time. And they have those big ass fans blowing air the whole time. There's no way that
And they
was
did
a
not,
dangerous situation.
they didn't require you to show your vaccination card or anything like that?
No,
They didn't ask
no,
for
it's
that?
not
No?
a, no, they didn't ask for that. But you could tell, at least at this point, at that moment, that everyone who was there was very diligent about wearing their mask. There wasn't some idiot, with the mask,
Oh,
not
Jesus.
over his nose.
Yeah.
Didn't see any of that, and it was fine. Now, that doesn't apply to any other situation except mine at that moment. And,
Exactly.
and that's the kind, I think, of measured, dipping your toe in the water kind of thing that a lot of people are going to be able to do, and especially if you're vaccinated.
The last
And I
thing,
think the same thing would apply, I think, to restaurants at a certain point.
it will.
I don't think.
The last thing I want to say about Florida and Texas is, as you talked about, some of those Democratic mayors in some of those cities are getting their asses kicked by those governors. I think DeSantis was considering it. I know in Texas they did do this. They were going specifically after Austin to get rid of the mask mandates. So again, we hate big government. We hate big government control. We love local government, except in this case. We want big government to stomp the shit out of Austin, Texas, and their local controls. We want Big Daddy in Tallahassee to go after anybody that tries to have a mask mandate in their town.
Are you saying people are sometimes selectively hypocritical? Oh,
that's what I'm saying.
You can't mean that. You cannot mean that.
Speaking of which, are we going to discuss Tucker Carlson at all, or is he beyond too stupid and too not worthy of discussion? I'm just asking you the question.
We can. I mean, the new prevailing zeitgeist on Tucker Carlson is that he is the new Trump. He embodies every bad habit that Trump has, except he's more clever about it. And he could run for president, get a lot of votes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people listen to his bullshit, and he lies, and he's racist. He's all those things. And he's a pretty dangerous guy. So that's the discussion. What do you have?
It's interesting that we talk about, because he's stirred up a lot of comments about, because he's apparently going after, he's figured out that women are in the military now and he doesn't like it.
Right.
This is something that's happened. And to me, we of course had the death of Rush Limbaugh, which was, gosh, almost 1 month ago to the day, I think.
Still not over, Britt. Still not over.
But you and I would never say that Rush Limbaugh wasn't a talented broadcaster. He was an evil person. He had no moral compass whatsoever, cared about not many people, and was just a mean guy. But I think Tucker Carlson is an absolute hack, because this thing with women in the military just tells you the cupboard is bare. You got nothing in there, and you're just trying to make a meal out of, oh, here's some spaghetti noodles, and here's some beans, and I've got some anchovy paste. That's what he's trying to do, right?
I think you're only about 1/10 right. It's not just a cupboard, Britt. It's a whole pantry. It's a whole pantry of things that he will pull off at any time,
any given time,
and say the most politically incorrect thing. And now he knows he can draw a crowd.
I guess.
Going there, and it does not matter what subject it is.
I'm delighted
matter.
I'm delighted that Senator Tammy Duckworth, who of course lost legs in a war, told him to fuck off. I'm also kind of like, well, Tammy, don't punch down, because that guy definitely is way not on your level. He's just so far beneath.
I saw a great cartoon, and the cartoon is Tucker Carlson, and he's bent, his head is turned to the side, and there's a prosthetic leg beating the shit out of him, and it says Senator Duckworth on there. And the title of the cartoon is, yes, women in the military, Tucker, we're there. We get the job done. And she's beating the shit out of him with a prosthetic leg.
I know she has to kind of answer for women, but she's so above him. He's such a worm. I heard Stuart Stevens, I think it was, talking about it on one of the Lincoln Project podcasts, and they said he knew Tucker Carlson 20 some odd years ago, and Tucker wanted to be a writer, but he's just not good enough to be a very good writer. So he has to do this shit. He has to do transsexuals and Dr. Seuss, and he has to do the gays, and he has to do, all of this bullshit in order to stir up the masses. And you've seen some of these straw polls. I don't even know if they did it at CPAC, but they said, he's considered one of the top 3 or 4 forerunners for the Republican nomination in 2024, right?
Right. But the prevailing wisdom is he's too lazy to actually do it.
Is he lazier than Trump? Is he lazier than Donald John Trump?
It's not just that. I mean, one of the most hackneyed answers was this in the 1930s when Babe Ruth signed the first $100,000 contract.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Someone said, the president only makes 40,000, and Babe Ruth said, well, I had a better year than he did.
That's right.
Something like that. And Tucker Carlson clearly seems to me to be the guy who, when he's faced with, well, should I keep doing this and pulling down 10 million a year, just showing up 5 days a week and yakking off, now available on Fox Nation with a special kind of program and a podcast. Should I keep doing that, or should I run for president? And the prevailing wisdom is he's too lazy to run for president. That actually takes some degree of work. But then on the other hand, who did it. So because he's done it, it kind of makes it impossible to say so-and-so would never run, right? The bar is so low. It is, but you also have to have a talented team of people willing to go to war for you. And I mean, the people who sold themselves out for Donald Trump, is it worse or better to sell yourself out and sell your soul for Tucker Carlson? I mean, that to me, that's worse. I think that those people would shift in 2 seconds if they thought it was in their interest. If they thought he could get up there on the debate stage and crush Ron DeSantis or Tom Cotton or any of those other people and make them look like idiots, which I don't think he could. I don't think and remember, when you're running a cable show and you the man and it's your show, you do have that advantage over the guests and other people. But when you're in politics, unless you are so beyond morality like Trump is, which I don't think there's anybody else in the country, including Tucker Carlson, who is so devoid of decency in the very, very end. No one is like Trump. His daughter is not like Trump. His fucking daughter-in-law is not like Trump, Laura Trump. They can talk about her in North Carolina all they want, but nobody's going to be that bad. But he'll draw flies. He will absolutely draw the flies. And I guess at this moment, because Trump is laying low, and unless the Alzheimer's really is starting to creep in, you saw the chatter over the weekend about that picture of him.
Yes, that was going to be. I wanted to discuss that with you. Do you think that do you think he's had plastic surgery? Do you think that's a possibility?
No, but did you see the side by side with his father, with Trump's father?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, because one of the visible symptoms of creeping Alzheimer's sometimes is physical alteration of your face. And they did the side by side of Fred Trump and then Donald Trump. And Fred Trump, of course, had really bad Alzheimer's at the end of his life, and they were talking about his just demeanor. It seemed really, really down. I guess he lives, if you can believe what we're reading, Trump now just lives for when he walks through the lobby of Mar-a-Lago, he gets a standing ovation every time from people there, and then he continues on. And was it Thursday or Friday? He got that plaque from Alabama that he can hang on the wall that declares him one of the greatest, most effective presidents in the history of the world.
One of
Donald Trump, we declare in the state of Alabama, you were that good. And it's the same picture you've seen a million times of Trump standing there with his thumb up and a smile like a goofball. And that's all he lives for. And then golf and and the rest of it. And no matter what you may think, most of the people that worked for Trump profited off of Trump, they thought, politically while they were working for him. Now they're out there in the real world, and they have nothing to do with Trump anymore. He's down to 2 or 3 people. He got a teeny tiny little staff of nobodies, and he's nothing. And Mary Trump, the niece, wrote last week, or did she say this on TV? It was one or the other, that she truly believes that Trump is more upset. Yeah, there's a picture. It's got that dent on him. That Trump is more upset over being kicked off of Twitter than he is losing the presidency.
I believe that. I think that's accurate. I think that's accurate. Yeah. I mean, I think he misses people kissing his ass like they did when he was president, like getting to ride on the big plane and stuff like that. But like you said, he gets that with a standing ovation a couple times a day. He can't get out there and bitch about stuff and be quote unquote relevant on Twitter. Yeah, I think that I agree with her on that. I wouldn't doubt her a bit.
You know, what we get about 2 or 3 times a week, we get press releases that will try to evoke the Twitter language and attitude, but it's not the same. It's definitely not the same. He was the master of that, and it's all gone, and it ain't coming back.
There he is with the future senator from the great state of North Carolina, Laura Trump. Right there. Yeah. There's a good picture for those of you that are watching us live.
In your dreams.
Dude, I gave up so much hope being a North Carolina native for this state. I gave up so much hope so long ago. They've lucied me so many times with this. I can't even say that it couldn't happen. Please, North Carolina, prove me wrong and tell me this woman isn't even going to be on the ballot. Please tell me that if she is on the ballot, she'll get crushed by Jeff Jackson or Josh Stein or somebody that the Democrats can put up against Laura Trump in 2022. Please tell me that's going to happen.
You remember a couple of years ago, Britt, we were hearing and we read stories about a lot of people who were reverse migrating out of Florida back north into South Carolina, North Carolina, Asheville area, huge, right? Of people fed up with Florida. And we're always talking about, well, this time the election is going to tip this way. Texas is going to turn blue because the demographics are changing and people are moving. It actually sort of happened in Georgia, although it was probably the born in Georgia black turnout that made a difference. Although Atlanta is made up of lots of people of all colors who moved to Atlanta. But point being that the last few months, or certainly since the pandemic, the word was that Florida was exploding, just exploding. People are leaving New York in droves. People with money, they're going down to New York, to Florida. They're buying up the real estate. And suddenly, it turns out, not quite as true as it appears in terms of the raw numbers.
What?
The Wall Street Journal did a story over the weekend, and it looks like the same number of people are moving out of Florida as are moving in. And that has been going on for several years. It didn't just start. In fact, last year, Florida's population was up only 1 1/3%, which is the lowest number of inflow, matching outflow and inflow.
Well, that was before the Bucs won the Super Bowl. Now that Tom Brady's won the Super Bowl, they're going to kick it back in.
Good point. They did. I don't think they factored that in. But remember, that was in 2021. Britt, doesn't count.
Yep. Now it's
but here's the point. If people are leaving Florida in significant numbers, even if they're mostly just replacing people who are moving people moving out of Florida, where are they going? A lot of them are coming here. We're the next stop, because if they don't want to go back to where it snows a lot and it's freezing all the time, well, the next states are Georgia and the Carolinas. And
that's right.
So that should give you some long-term hope that, the demographics in North Carolina will change enough, and with some brains being applied, as was done in Georgia the last few years, We might actually stop being a state that can only elect Republican senators and
nice.
a Democratic governor over and over
Just-
and over again.
Just
We
don't
gotta
move
do
to our
better than
town. Just don't move to our town. Continue to move to Raleigh and Durham and Wilmington and Asheville and Charlotte, but please don't move to our town. That's all we ask.
that. Right. We don't want any skilled people. We don't want any people
No.
with money.
No,
We don't want our real estate market to continue to grow. We want it to all collapse, Britt.
that's exactly right.
Right? That's what we want. We don't want any growth here, right? We have enough. We have enough. All right.
Well, that's all I have. I've got to go pack up my U-Haul and head down to Florida. I hear it's booming
Yeah.
with the virus.
Did you see the Florida man story about the guy that cut off his grandfather's ears, killed
I think
him
I saw
and
it.
cut off his ears, and they caught him with the ears? You didn't see the story?
No, did he at least put him on ice?
Okay, live moment. Google Florida man
Florida man ears. Okay.
Florida man ears and see what comes up. And I didn't plan this out. I just saw the story in a couple of places. I want to see how good Mr. Google is.
Florida man allegedly killed his grandfather, cut off his ears, and put them in his pockets. And they
There
have
you
a
go.
picture of the guy who looks straight out of Central Casting.
Right. And by the way, we obviously that's just disgusting. You should have them on your belt, not in your pocket, right?
No, you gotta put them in like an ice chest so that you can use them for something else, you know?
Yeah.
Lake County, I don't know where that is, but because there's a couple of places that have lakes in Florida. Yeah, that's who it was. It was in Lake County, Florida, where this guy did this. And the Washington Post has this story as well.
Everybody has it. Everybody has it. Because you get to do
It's so
Florida
weird.
man. Any chance you get to have to do Florida man. And by the way, remember the governor is Florida man.
Colby Allen Parker is the guy's name. Colby Allen
Right.
Parker, 30 years of
And
age.
One last thing, and I'm going to do some research on this over the next day. I think we have to officially put an end to making the assumption that because you have some association with Harvard, you're smart. Because there are just too many idiots out there, from Jared Kushner to Ron DeSantis to Mike Pompeo, a whole bunch of them. I'm sick of it. I'm just sick of it. And the rest of us, we have a stake in this too.
Yeah.
And when someone uses that credential to try to elevate them, you're going to have to prove it to be more than just what's on your damn diploma. Okay.
Well, there's Josh Hawley out there from Yale, so you got to throw.
Same thing.
Yeah, same
Thing,
situation.
because you have to remember that at some level, a lot of people who get into Ivy League schools at some level are often the biggest assholes at your high school. They're the cutthroats. They'll do anything.
You're
And
right.
That doesn't mean they're smart. They're just ambitiously
Cutthroat, bloodthirsty,
deceptive
absolutely,
and horrible. Right. So
I agree.
And by the way, Britt, we're not jealous, right?
No, not at all.
We don't covet any higher degree than we have achieved.
Oh no,
from
I've got
state land grant universities in Ohio and North Carolina. It's nothing to do with that. It's not.
Look,
about
both of our teams
jealousy.
made the tournament. So I mean, we're all
Exactly.
very happy.
And one is a second seed, isn't it?
One is, but not mine.
No, but barely.
But barely.
All right.
See you tomorrow.